So here we are, month 6 already, so it's getting the quilt together. I hope you've really enjoyed the journey so far. There's a lot of stitching this month, but really you've got most of the components done. There's just a little corner triangle to stitch and some applique to do, and then it's just construction. Template M will be the template that you get this month, which you're going to cut from the special fabric. Template D will be cut from the main floral that you received months ago. Just remember that there is a little difference between the acrylic templates. Template D in the acrylic is slightly different to template D that was in the magazine. So if you're using the acrylic templates for your quilt, it will work with these M and D. If you're using the paper templates from Quiltmania, just make sure that you continue to use those and it will all work out. So you're just going to stitch with your curved seam, making sure you get your bias stretch maximised on your template M, and you're just going to stitch the D template into the curve, and you're going to make 4 of these. These are going to become the corners of your blocks. You're going to stitch your month 4 into the curve of your month 5 and make 8 of these units, and now we're going to applique these onto the triangles which will form the corners of your block. So we're going to applique these units that you've made onto these triangles. Now at the beginning, when we were talking about this fabric, it says to cut in the pattern your squares, 4 squares at 25 inches, and you're going to cross cut these once on the diagonal so that it gives you 8 big triangles. So just press a seam up the center, so fold it in half like so, press your seam up the center to give you a registration mark, and then you're going to center these units that you've previously made, lining up your straight edge on your triangle and your center on your center line. Okay, so you've got your beautifully centered here. You might just want to measure these from the edge here to your point on both ends, just to make sure that you've got it beautifully centered. And then pin that in place. We're going to actually applique that on. So remember that you've got a 1/4 inch seam allowance on here because you've cut that out using the acrylic template. So take your corresponding template, which is your N template, pop the etched line on your cut edge, and you can lightly draw in what will be your turning line for the applique. You might need to rotate this template round a couple of times just as you see the etched line not matching up with the edge of your fabric. Just rotate that template round and just lightly draw in that 1/4 inch turning line on each of your outside surfaces. So now we're just going to applique this down onto the background fabric. So just turn your seam allowance under to that, make sure that that line is just slightly turned to the underside, and then just with your nice little blind applique stitch, which we talked about in month 2 when you did your circles. And so you're just going to continue appliquing these curves all the way around onto your triangle. So once you've got this all appliqued down, I did trim away my background from behind this piece, just so that it's not too weighty. So just leaving your 1/4 inch seam allowance, and making sure that you don't cut this fabric here. We're just going to trim that background fabric out of the way. All right, so just all the way around. and then that piece will just come out at the back and you'll be just left with the single layer all the way. So you're going to stitch your circles together so that you have 6 rows, alternating your full circle and your donut. It's a good idea if you keep the fabric in the same position all the way, because as they rotate around you'll see as you start to put the quilt together. So always start with this one on this side, this one the coloured background on this side, and you're going to do the same with your courthouse steps blocks, but this time you have got 8. I had to count those, I've forgotten. But once again, keeping them alternating in the same way. Now we're going to start the construction. So you've got your centre octagon here, and your donut and circle strips are going to be sewn to 4 sides. It's really important that you leave this 1/4 inch seam allowance here at this point unstitched, because this is going to be an inset a corner, so these become inset seams here. So just make sure, and you're going to put on all 4 sides. So once you've stitched your courthouse steps together in rows, and you'll have 4 of these units, you're going to stitch this little one that you've made with the M template and the D template to the top corner. This then becomes this piece here, the diagonal in your quilt. So once you've got those stitched together, you're then going to stitch one of these curved units to either side, just making sure that you centre each of them so that they're nice and even across here, and they'll just fit together perfectly. Once again, just leaving your 1/4 inch seam allowance unstitched at this point here, because this is your inset seam. So now you've got these units made, you've got these stitched onto your 4 sides. So now you are going to stitch this in, okay? That's a little inset seam there, but because you've left your 1/4 inch seam allowance unstitched, it will come together and form a nice sharp angle, and you're just going to stitch and put all 4 sides in, and your quilt is finished. Then you're ready to just quilt it, bind it, and enjoy it.